If there's something that characterizes the European continent, it's that throughout history, any amount of blood has been spilled in countless wars. That is, European peoples have had to prepare for combat at all times if they wanted to ensure their survival. Despite all this, we have the case of 6 states in the old continent that do not operate the 500 square kilometers. The well-known European microstates, which were not absolutely strong in the military, nor relevant in politics, were able to survive over time. Interested in learning how they've maintained their sovereignty? Alright, then stay until the end of the video. To start, it would be good to see what the definition of a microstate, also called a mini-state, is. As its name suggests, it refers to a country with a very small territory, but that still enjoys full international recognition and even a seat in the UN with voting capacity in the assemblies, which has the same weight as that of major powers like China or the United States. Microstates differ from micronations in that the latter do not have recognition, so no one takes them into consideration. Likewise, it is reiterated that microstates have full sovereignty, although due to their limited size and resources, they often voluntarily delegate to larger countries some economic aspects, such as monetary policy and military aspects, as it would be impossible for them to defend themselves on their own. Having said that, let's start from largest to smallest. That is, with Andorra, a country of 468 square kilometers located in the Pyrenees Mountains between Spain and France. It turns out that Andorra is the only country with Catalan as the official language, which tells us something about its past, which was the result of the merger of 2 Catalan counties that were formed during the Middle Ages, but with its own particularity, that the union was in the form of a condominium. That is, it was a territory whose sovereignty was shared by the Bishop of Urgell in present-day Spain and by the Count of Foix in present-day France. Time passed, and despite the constant territorial disputes between France and Spain, the country remained intact as sub-state entities from both countries continued to share sovereignty over Andorra. Its formation is usually associated with the year 1278, and as the centuries passed, the head of state in the form of a parliamentary co-principality falls on the bishopric of Urgell and the president of France, who are to this day the 2 co-princes of Andorra. It is not until 1982 that the current constitution is drafted, that dismantles the last feudal remnants of the principality by declaring the Andorran people as sovereign of the state, at the same time that a cooperation treaty was signed with Spain and France, who promised their protection. The Republic of Malta, with 316 square kilometers, is the easiest European microstate to understand due to its insular condition. With 518,000 inhabitants, it is the most populated country on this list, even surpassing relatively large countries like Iceland. Due to its long history, which involved Muslim states from the nearby northern coasts of Africa, its official language, Maltese, is the only Afro-Asiatic language of the European Union, and has similarities with Arabic. If we talk a little about how it achieved its sovereignty, it turns out that the island has been in the hands of various countries since ancient times. Among them, the Sovereign Order of Malta of the Hospitaller Knights, who received the territory in 1530, but were expelled by the French during the Napoleonic era, who in turn withdrew in the face of the British invasion, who remained occupying the island until they granted it independence in 1964. We continue with Liechtenstein, a microstate of 160 square kilometers between Switzerland and Austria, which has the Swiss franc as its official currency and German as its majority language, and its population is about 39,000 people. It turns out that Liechtenstein is the only political remnant of the disappeared Holy Roman Empire, a collection of various principalities, counties, kingdoms, and margraviates, mostly of German essence. The Principality of Liechtenstein was born after the merger of the counties of Vaduz and Schellenberg in 1719, and has since then been ruled under the homonymous house. During the Napoleonic Wars, the Holy Empire disappears, and all states first fall under the Confederation of the Rhine, and then under the German Confederation, the step prior to German unification. This takes place amidst a fierce competition between Austria and Prussia for the leadership of the German world, and the war finally breaks out in 1866, where all German states must take a side. Liechtenstein plays a double diplomacy and positions itself on the side of its neighbor Austria, but without sending troops to fight against Prussia, but against Italy. This allowed it to earn the protection of Vienna and thus maintain its independence, even after the end of the unification process after the Franco-Prussian War. The most serene Republic of San Marino is considered by many as the oldest country in the world, since it gained independence from the Roman Empire in the year 301 AD. It has an area of 61 square kilometers and a population of 33,000 inhabitants, and is remembered for being a true football power. News of the sarcasm. Just like Germany, Italy was divided into various states towards the 19th century, which is when the unification process begins. It turns out that San Marino's strategy to maintain its independence was first to give the title of honorary citizen to the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, alluding to the fact that at that time both were among the few democratic Republican governments. Lincoln's response: accept the letter and establish diplomatic relations with San Marino. Secondly, offer refuge to the leaders of the Italian unification movement when they were initially persecuted, including Giuseppe Garibaldi himself. When the revolutionary achieved the unification of Italy, he remembered the favor that the small nation of San Marino had done for him and respected its independence. Also mentioned that its geographical position in the middle of the Apennines helps to repel any invasion. We continue with Monaco, a 2 square kilometer country known for the Grand Prix. And despite its tiny size, it has a population similar to that of Liechtenstein or San Marino. It is located between the Alps and the Mediterranean Sea. And while French is the official language, Monegasque, a variation of the Ligurian language from the Liguria region in Italy, is also spoken. In terms of its history, it has been ruled by the House of Grimaldi since the 13th century, which had to know how to play its diplomacy to preserve its independence. First, it signed the Treaty of Peronne in 1641, in which France guarantees its independence in exchange for military loyalty and the expulsion of a Spanish garrison that had been in the country for over a century. Subsequently, during the Congress of Vienna in 1815, Monaco was established as a protectorate of the Kingdom of Sardinia until 1860, when it returned to the sphere of influence of France, who offered it recognition of its sovereignty if it aligned its economic and diplomatic policies with those of the French country. Finally, we have Vatican City, another enclave within Italy and the only Christian theocracy still in existence today, with the Pope as head of state. Due to its religious essence, the Vatican has Latin as its official language, although the language most commonly used is Italian. And although its current area is 0.44 square kilometers in the past, it had an extent similar to that of Switzerland. It was formerly known as the Papal States, and occupied all of this part of central Italy, with Rome being the capital of the country. Unlike San Marino, the Papal States did not maintain their independence during the Italian unification, and disappeared as a state until 1929, when Benito Mussolini agreed in the Lateran Pacts to give the current borders of the Vatican to the Holy See, in exchange for aligning with his political interests through a concordat. In conclusion, these have been the European microstates that, as you can see, each one has its own peculiarity and way of having preserved its sovereignty within such a convulsed continent. So these countries are proof that every rule has its exception. Did you already know about the European microstates? No, don't forget to leave your comment and subscribe to the channel. Also, I leave you in the description my social networks, and in case you want to see the new videos in pre-release and have a greater interaction with me, your donations on Patreon unermanito.net, or channel members are welcome. See you next time.